Hi, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm just wanting to kind of talk about the next phase of my story. I did sort of a phase one. As you know, cancer is comes in lots of phases. The journey is long, it's arduous, and I think for me, like breaking it down into phases helps make it more digestible. So where I left off was that I'd had a mammogram, and then a ultrasound of my right breast, um, which showed a very large mass covering most of my right breast. The radiologist, which I appreciate, I know some people wouldn't, but she was very direct and basically said, I'm very concerned, and very confident that this is likely a malignancy and we need to get this going quickly. And so I think that all happened on like a Thursday. And then on Friday, they got me in for a breast MRI just so that they could get a clearer picture of the tumor. The tumor was massive. It was like an inch away from my chest wall. And it was pretty clear that there was local metastases to the lymph nodes on the right side, which, looking back, like I had some pain and swelling there. And then, as I noted before, like I had pain in my right breast. So that all kind of started to connect. No family history. So none of that. And so I think too, like at this point in my life, my husband and we had like a lot of like trauma. We had gone through IVF, which was arduous. We couldn't get pregnant. And so we were fortunate to get like 11 embryos in IVF. And I was very fortunate to become pregnant with the first transfer. We lost that baby at 20 weeks. And then 6 months later, I was blessed to get pregnant again and had a successful pregnancy and gave birth to our beautiful son, Jack. So it felt like, I was 37. It felt like we had kind of finally found our stable ground. And then there was like a massive earthquake. And I remember like initially like feeling really angry, like karma, like why does this like keep happening to us? I think that's natural to like be like, why me? I wasn't even like feeling sorry for myself. I was just like, what the fuck? Like this is crazy and this can't be happening. And like, I definitely like totally disassociated, and just, I don't really remember. Like my husband picked me up from the mammogram appointment. Like I think he was in shock. My mom was in Florida. She's a snowbird. So she like legitimately got in the car and just started like driving home like a lunatic. And so like, that's when I realized just like the tentacles of cancer, like how much this was going to disrupt, like not just me and like my child and my husband, but like my family. So then I went from like feeling angry to feeling like guilty. Like I've caused so much worry and like not, and none of this was like, made sense. It's just all the things that were going through my head. I think, everyone, like, because I was at the appointment by myself, like, not everyone had heard like the discussion and what was said. And so I felt like everybody was still like, well, this could be something else. Like, you just never know. And for all of you that have gone through this, like, your intuition, like I knew something was wrong and I knew it was bad. And so then it was, of course, like I said, I had the breast MRI. They then ordered a CT of the chest, abdomen, pelvis, and a bone scan. I truly thought that like I had metastatic disease just because of the size of the tumor and because of my age. Like I knew that the younger you're diagnosed, the more aggressive the cancer likely is. And so I got my CT scan and my bone scan in the same day. I thought the bone scan was worse because you have to like lay there for a while. You have to lay really still and like you look up and there's like, you know, your body and you're like seeing things. And so, of course, I'm like, you know, all of a sudden a radiologist and like thinking I can like read it as they're doing it. And I'm like, what's that spot? Like, and, you know, of course, like the techs aren't going to tell you anything. And then I was fortunate that, again, you know, I happened to be working in a cancer center at this time. I had worked in oncology for 10 years. My doctor had ordered the scans stat, so they came back really quickly. I was sitting in my office when the CT chest, abdomen, pelvis came up, like just refreshing. And initially, like I saw the chest and it said metastatic disease, and I completely just like broke down. And then I realized what they were talking about was like what we already knew, which that it had locally metastasized to my lymph nodes. Fortunately, my abdomen pelvis was clear, and my bone scan was clear. And so if I can kind of tell you anything, is you have to celebrate the small wins, because there's not a lot to celebrate as you go through this process. And so I felt like in that moment I was given a gift and I just had to breathe. And that's like the first time I, like, obviously I was breathing because I was alive, but that's the first time that I could breathe and actually feel like, okay, like that finally, like some good news. And then, you know, the reality set in. So after that, my pathology came back. Mine was PR positive, HER2 negative, which my doctor was really surprised. She was like, I really thought this was going to be triple negative just because of some of the characteristics. And the path was definitive, which, you know, we kind of already knew. And so then it quickly went from the scans to planning for chemotherapy. And so I want to pause there and just, you know, say that any of you going through this, any of you waiting for a scan, waiting for results, newly diagnosed, like, just know that there is a community and like we are wrapping our arms around you. And I just think telling our stories and sharing is the best way, because you just can't understand it unless you've been in it. So stay tuned for me to come back with kind of phase 3, which is, you know, the next part of my journey. But hope you all have a good rest of your evening. And just remember, worst club, best members.